What are you doing? You want to go to the creek? What are you doing? Are you going to the creek? Huh? I thought we'd take dogs down here to the creek while we run down and check out Jennifer's house, the drywall, because they've been working on it for a couple of days, so they should have got quite a bit of it done. Anyway, we'll run down here and check it out. All right, here's a shot of the inside of the garage. They're getting along pretty well with getting those seams covered. They finally got this upstairs covered. I've got to get back there and build a door for the storage area. And then they've got a little bit left right there where the dog is coming up to check me out, left on the stairwell. He's got to come up here and check it out too. He goes everywhere I go. All right, here's a peek into their bedroom here. It's all primarily finished with the exception of probably one more coat and then the sanding. I know that you can't see back in there, but. And here's a shot of the main room. They got the ceiling done more than anything. They're trying to finish that, I think, first, and then come down the walls. And you can see the darker color, the contrast right there, is because that corner is not dry. So that's the reason that they're not working today, to let this dry, so I would assume they'll be back next week. Here's one of the back bedrooms. And then here's the other bedroom. Here's another shot of her great room, I guess that's what you're going to call it. And the kitchen area and the pantry. And then here's a shot of the hallway coming in from the garage. Looks like the doors stayed covered up, so I'm pretty happy about that. Not having to get any of that mud on the tracks or on the doors to be able to have, so that we would have to clean it off. And then right over there beside the garage is where they've decided to put their well. We have to keep it out of this roadway that we're going to use to access in and out of the hollow. And I'll tell you what, without a dumpster down here, there sure is a big mess that's going to have to be picked up twice. Well, I had to give the chickens a little something to eat there. They always watch for me to come out of the house. And then the turkey, she will start her clucking. And then one of the roosters, he'll make a noise. And then they all start chiming in. It's breakfast time here on the homestead. I'm going to go ahead and put my sunglasses on because this sun is pretty bright, and I hate to squinch my eyes when I'm looking at the camera, but I'm standing back here where we were talking about building the storm shelter, and according to the weatherman, around Tuesday or Wednesday, we are supposed to get some storms that could be as bad or worse than what we had last week. They're talking about severe winds, hail, lightning, you know, lots of rain and stuff. And I'm kind of eyeballing some of these pines back here. I'll show you. Okay, right in through there are two pines, okay? This one to the left right here is it's very tall actually. There's a possibility that if it fell, okay, the top might just barely touch the cabin. But the thing I'm concerned with is the tower more than this little outhouse. I would certainly hate to lose that because then I would have to rebuild it, right? But the tower is my communications in and out, the satellite to be able to upload videos for you all, and just to be able to, you know, communicate with my kids because I've got the extended the gain for the telephone so that I have a better signal up here. But I'm thinking that what I might need to do is, depending on which way they're leaning, because the wind, we don't have too much wind today, I may need to go up there, sharpen my saw, and level one of those, especially the one that is closest this way. The other one, I believe, is a white pine, but I don't think it could reach anything. I think that it could possibly reach the tower, but I think it's leaning more in that direction. Okay, I'm actually up above this pine, and if you look, it is leaning to the left as I go up. This is the other pine I was talking about, which is actually a double because it's split right there at the bottom. But you can look, and it sort of leans backwards up the hill just a little. Then of course here's a different angle. So one is going to fall kind of uphill to the left, and the other one should fall not quite uphill, but it's going to fall in that direction. And then this one here is actually kind of going straight up, but then as you get to about 15 feet, it starts leaning uphill, as you can see. Okay, so right here is the tower behind the cabin. And if I pan over here to the left, you can see that first tree right there beyond that hemlock, okay? Probably from there over to the base, we're talking about 50 feet. And we know that that tree is much taller, right? All the way to the top there. It's probably 75 feet, 60 feet maybe. And see how it blows? Because the needles, since it's an evergreen, it catches the wind winter or summer. Then the other tree is probably about 15 to 20 feet away, which is right there, going up, same thing, full of needles. And if I pan to the right, the top of that tree would probably land right into the tower right there. Now, unless they get to rocking really bad, I don't think that they would come in this direction just because of what I showed you earlier on how they're leaning. But if you have enough wind gusts, you know, going and stopping and going and stopping, and that tree gets to rocking really fast, there's a possibility it could uproot as it's swinging in this direction, especially if we get quite a bit of rain. So that's an issue that I'm going to have to try to address here. I do have that poplar right there in front of the tower towards the back of it. And then I've got some other poplars over there, but see, they don't have leaves on them yet, and they don't generally come down in severe weather or a windstorm, so I'm not really too worried about those because I don't have time to just go through here and level everything. But pine trees and the cedar trees I do worry about. I've kind of got the cedars cut back and at bay from being able to hit any of the buildings, but the pines, we've still got some that are outstanding that should probably come down, because the last storm we had, those winds were up to 54 miles an hour, and that's why I was impressed that the solar panels stayed on. And then of course we had hail that I showed you that hit about 5 miles away from us. Luckily it didn't come over this far, but you know, there's no telling. On this next storm they're predicting hail. My concern is the solar panels, you know, getting holes beat in them, and if it's large enough it could beat holes in the metal roof. So I don't know how much of a threat that one is, but I don't like it either. That's a third one that I might take down. Because if we stand and look at it from this direction right here, it's not very far from the blackberry vines, which is only about 20 feet away from the cabin. So there's probably a total of 50 feet between that tree and the cabin. And I think we could all agree on that tree is probably taller than 50 feet. You know, we've had a lot of good ideas that come from you all the time. But a lot of the comments that are made, you know, are really good ideas, but some of them require quite a bit of money, and that's just something that we don't have. So a lot of times when I do something up here, I've said this before, I have to try to use whatever resources I have available to me. And that's primarily 90% of that would be lumber, okay, wood. The other percentage would be tools or things that I have kept that I haven't used, you know, some small pieces of metal, wire, nails, screws, bolts, just different things like that that I tried to save and use at a later, date if needed. But just to run out and buy different things, we just don't have the money to do that. So something that I forgot to mention the other day is, regardless of what type of structure we put in there, as far as wood goes, it's going to have to be covered with something like blueskin or some sort of rubberized material, because like I said before, even the marine grade plywood is not going to last forever. So I wouldn't put plywood, regardless of the quality of it, next to dirt. So these are some of the things that you have to be concerned about when you live out in the country. But I'll tell you what, compared to everything else and living in the city, I wouldn't trade it for nothing, even though we have threats like this. And like I said, the other concern that I have is those solar panels. So I'm just hoping that we can make it through this storm, because I don't have time to try to figure out a way to protect those. But it is something that I'm thinking about, because they're out there in the wide open, and they did a really good job, like I said, staying in those other high winds that we had. But I don't think that they would make it through hail, especially golf ball size. They're not going to make it. So I've got to figure out a way possibly to protect those when storms come through that have something like that associated with them. I was just standing here thinking, there's a possibility, but let's assume that there was a piece of plywood laying right here. I could fasten a piece of metal that would have a hook on it, kind of like this, that would hook over the back of that panel, right? And then come down here, and whether I have to take that 2x2 off and put a 2x4 on there is okay by me. But if I could put something down here that would hold it as well, then maybe what I could do is from one side to the other, right in the middle, have a cable. It doesn't have to be really big, but have a thin cable that would come around the corner all the way across and would fasten down to that side right there. The only thing is, I would have to build 16 of those because a sheet of plywood is about the size of one of those solar panels. Yeah, that would, and like I said, it doesn't have to be anything really thick, but I would have to have a place to store those, and it'd be a little bit of work to set that up in the event that a storm came through. But what are you going to do? You've got thousands of dollars invested in equipment like that, and I might have to do it several times during the summer at the changing patterns of weather that we're having. But you got to do something, right? Or just spend money to replace it, which we don't have that kind of money to replace it. So I think the two projects that we're going to be working on this year, I was going to try to do water, but I'm used to carrying water, so I can go another year like that. I just don't have enough time to do everything. I want to get at least the workshop covered down here, finish that, just so blowing rain won't get in there and settle in any of the joints and start any rot or deterioration on the timber frame. Then the storm shelter is actually a higher priority than that, but as I'm milling lumber for the other, I'll probably end up with material for this. So I'm going to try to get both of those done this year, because you're not talking about small projects. Anything I do up here is major, it seems like to me, and it takes a while to get it done. So it's been a year since I worked on that workshop down there, and it's high time that I started, like I said, at least getting the sides covered, and then maybe next year I can actually start working on the floors in there and be able to use it, because I wanted to tear this sawmill building down this year. Maybe I'll get it done, I'm not really sure, but I need a place to put all of that stuff, and I can't just sit it on the ground in here. If I had the floors in, then everything would be up off of the ground, and I wouldn't worry about water, maybe running underneath and rusting any of the equipment that I've got, battery operated tools and things of that nature. So folks, there's a whole lot to do on a homestead. It's really fun, but it's a lot of work. But yeah, that's just some of the ideas that I've got going on there. And again, if you guys have anything that you can think of, please leave us a comment below. And it's something that, if we think that it would be useful here, we might use. We try to take those opinions and along with our own thoughts and the money that is available, and come up with the best plan and alternative that not only can we afford, but something that we have resources to be able to do. So with that said, friends, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for stopping by. We look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.